Hi, Mr. Thomas here, and I'm going to introduce you guys to the European societies and the Christian societies that are dealing with things that are going on in the world today. So just follow here. I'm just going to erase this. I actually made this video once, and then I realized I had no sound. So I'm making sure I have sound by looking at my lapel mic that has a green dot on it, and it's still working. Okay. Number one, they're very basic technology. I know I'm starting with the back of the spice category here. They have the plow, they have loom, and then they have the horse collar. And so they need to grow wheat, right, or barley or whatever else they're gonna grow. They need basically the two things to like break up the ground and do that. And compare that, guys, now to what's going on in the rest of the world, and you'll see that they're just relatively basic, both in learning and in terms of, like, I'll just say their technologies and the things that are going on. Now, what's going to change that over time is going to be their interactions with the Crusades. So let's go back though a little bit and go all the way to social for a moment. Okay, and so we're going like, what would that be? Spice, something like that. I don't know if I'll hit them all, but here is social, and really in a lot of ways political. Is found in feudalism, and feudalism is a system that you guys can look this up online and download a thing that we'll picture for it. We'll do that on the review. We basically have a king on top, and the kings in this era are small. Compare this to the Abbasid Caliphate and whatever the king of England is at the time, or whether the king of France or Gaul or Normandy or whatever it may be. They're small. Below them are the nobles, and this is going to create a class of people that basically these guys have forts or manors that can protect from the outside invaders. The reason it's in this system is because attacking from the outside often are Muslims, and then often are Vikings, think coming from just invaders in general. And then I'll just go there, just like the daily, like if you're out in the open, someone can just come get you, the outright just sort of robbery. From there, we end up with the knights, or what are often called the vassals. I'm putting them together. You can kind of work yourself up the social ladder if, over time, you're willing to defend the manor. And so the noble will then be forced to give you a fief, or kind of a manor of your own, a small plot of land that you can defend and work for yourselves and be a part of it. Then you always put next here are the artisans. Why is everyone with British heritage last name Smith? Because their ancestor at some level or some point was probably a blacksmith, someone that worked with metal and could shape into those plows and those horse collars and horseshoes and the things that I was talking about earlier. But the vast majority of the population are serfs, or uneducated peasants, people that are just living off the land, and whenever said invasions come, they basically go hide in the manor while the knights go out and defend them with their heavy metal armor. Okay, so I should put that technology down there. Armor is part of the technology, but let's put it this way: in this era, you'd rather have Muslim armor and Muslim steel than you would this. This social structure, guys, is super important. You can compare and contrast it in your head to say something like the caste system to say, you know, how much better it is. Now, they are, let's just jump over to the religion for the moment. They are Catholic in their background and their religion, especially in Europe. So religion is a big deal to them. And they believe in this thing called the Great Chain of Being. And that everyone has a place and a spot in the universe. And don't try to change that. Don't try to change your social status. Stay there as a peasant. Stay there as a noble. Do your duty and your right things that are going on. The most important person in the time is the Pope. Your book used the papacy to describe it. This gives more power, papacy, whatever I'm doing. I don't know if I'm spelling that right there. And so the basic idea when you guys are thinking about it, you want to know that they believe that God has given the Pope the most power, and they're going to have more power than the kings. And this is going to lead to the investiture controversy, where basically kings are fighting with the Pope, who has more power. Now, in Europe, controversy. no, I'm not spelling that right. Now, in that, I think the most famous like Pope-King interaction is that of Charlemagne. Charlemagne, Charles the Great, I believe French or Frank general / king, Charlemagne, is crowned Holy Roman Emperor by the Pope at the time, showing that the Pope still had power over the king. And he basically said that Charlemagne would have the kingship over all of Europe, anyone that was Catholic. Got it? And that shows his power over theirs. And Charlemagne was happy to accept it. He also was a guy that engaged in bringing Europe up to speed in terms of education. He started to move them forward. The way he got education, by the way, is to hire the Irish. At this time, Irish monks were a big part of the story because monasticism was a big deal. One of my favorite spots to go is the Getty Museum, and you can see that they've done these beautiful drawings of these Bibles, and often it was the Irish monks that did it, that would kind of tell the story of the Bible as it was going forward, and it was also supposed to compete in terms of beauty and grandeur to the pagan magic books, or whatever you want to call them, that the Germanic folks were using out in Germany. And a lot of the Irish had died, but basically the Irish were educating in Charlemagne, but he was followed by two bad kings. One of them, is bad because his name is Charles the Bald. If the best thing the most thing you're most known for is being bald, it's not necessarily good for your kingship. No offense to my own baldness. Anyhow, Charlemagne is in the midst of there, but the Pope has power over him. And then, as we mentioned earlier, this is the monks, or the monasticism, is at a high rate where throughout every, I'll just go probably village at this point, there are a bunch of monks, monastic. The monastic system is basically, you follow an order. So I think you'll see in your quotes something like Saint Benedict, of the Benedictine monks. There's a whole set of monks that are just living by themselves, haven't given up all property, haven't given up all rights, haven't given up all sorts of other things, in order that they can kind of learn and share the gospel and be with God. And that's kind of the normal in the society at this point. I will argue, guys, that Christianity, if you read the Bible, is not a monastic religion. Your examples of Jesus and Paul are very much interacting with people all of the time. And so I've always kind of had that critique whenever I study the monks or what's going on there. Now, the Catholics had gotten into a fight with, big surprise there, with the Byzantine Empire. So when I think of the Byzantine Empire, this is, you can kind of compare and contrast in your head in this chapter, the Byzantines versus the European Christians. And the Byzantine Empire is large at the beginning of the era. By the time it actually dies in like 1450, it's basically the city of Constantinople, which is their big city, Constantinople. Now, they're going to split with the Catholics over the Great Schism. And the Great Schism is a split between Orthodoxy and Orthodox and the Catholics. Orthodox. The Orthodox and the Catholics split over a number of things, but it includes things like different beliefs about the Holy Spirit, the Philippe controversy. But I'm just going to, so some of this stuff is trite. It's like, some of it's political. It's like, who's a better, the father or bishop of Constantinople or the Pope? Or should they be equals? And basically they're going to split over that. And then the Catholics kick out the bishops and the bishops kick out the Catholics. The other one, I mean, it's literally the date of Easter was one of the controversies. Because they believed it was, I know it's at the end of March. I'll have to ask Hike. At the end of March, they always have the same date for Easter. It's just the day that it happened. Where in the Catholic calendar, as you guys know, because your spring break changes every year, you end up with Easter set up by the Jewish calendar. Whenever the Jews hold Passover, then we hold also our resurrection ceremony, Easter, or Resurrection Sunday is held on that day. What else do I need to say about religion? I think that kind of gives you the basic outline or ideas. I'm sure there's more to be talked about. And so before I leave, I think I'm just going to hit really quick the Byzantine Empire just for a moment because they're now the biggest one of the biggest landmarks I've seen historical wise is the Hagia Sophia. It is the world's oldest church. I think it's built in about the 600s. Hagia, Holy, Sophia, Sophia, Wisdom. So just if you guys need some, anyhow, I'll move forward there. It's a big blue domes. It's a massive building. It was so massive that the world's largest mosque is right next to it, or one of the world's largest mosques. I don't know if it's bigger than the one in Mecca, but it was built there to dwarf and show that Muslims were better than Christians. But basically, this is a place that will be held steady, held firm, and it kind of is the first introduction to that dome type of structure that really originates out of the Byzantine Empire. Remember, this was originally formed by the Roman Empire splitting, and they keep the Roman law under Constantine. And so a lot of our Roman history is going to be attached to here. And I'm going to note they have a lot of the Greek scholars as well. And so they're better educated than their contemporaries in Europe. But they kind of just sit there. They don't really do a whole lot. They don't expand. They don't try to engage technology beyond probably the most famous Byzantine emperor is Justinian. And he is the one who kind of gives the laws that are going to be handing down for the rest of the Byzantine Empire. They'll stay there, but they'll just slowly get eroded away by the Muslim world expanding. And so when you come back, I'll say when we talk about the Ottoman Turks in the 1450s, they're going to finally get the Byzantine Empire out of Constantinople, and Constantinople will become Istanbul. All right, next time we'll talk about politics, mostly and the Crusades.